Hey, this is Ian.
Hey, this is Jeff. What are we doing today, Ian?
I don't know. What are we doing?
We're going to install a ballast coil on the MGB-GT. This is part one, which is doing the wiring setup, and I'll talk a bit about the wiring in general. Let me show you what I got. I got an XL coil here, 12 volt, model 8140, universal 12 volt coil, performance coil. This is a 1.4 ohm coil. With it, I've got a JEGS 1.6 ohm ballast resistor, and I also purchased a Napa coil bracket. Okay, let me show you why I did some of this. The coil bracket I bought, the Napa coil bracket, is because it had this little tab on it, as you can see here, that I can put the ballast resistor on. Actually, it just came without the screw on it there. That's a 1/4 inch fine thread that I had. Anyway, that should work. All right, let's talk about some of the wiring that will go on. As you know, a ballast resistor basically allows you to run kind of an overcharge to the coil by running a wire directly off of the starter, which I'm attaching here. You'll notice there's two terminals on the starter. This is the wire that will come in from the switch that will actuate the solenoid, and this is a special, once the solenoid is activated, it will send 12 volts back along this wire to the ignition. You want to follow it? There you go. To the ignition positive side. And what that does is it temporarily, as you hold that switch, it will send 12 volts along that wire to this coil that will eventually end up kind of overcharging the distributor in the points to give it extra voltage, which is a really hot start. And then when you release, and it just runs normally in the run position, then the 12 volts will come through the resistor down to the positive side, but now it's coming through a 1.6 ohms resistor, which means it's really coming in at, I don't really know, 8 volts maybe, instead of 12 volts from here, maybe 6 volts. Heck, I don't really know. I've never really tested it. But a total, you're going to get 1.6 ohms here. Internally in this coil is 1.4, so a total of 3 ohms. So it's going to be a much reduced circuit or charge coming through the line to the distributor. And once it's running, that's all it needs. It doesn't need that extra voltage that you kind of need at initial start. The MGB-GT that I have, it really doesn't like to start sometimes cold, especially when it's cold outside. So I'm hoping this will help. One final thing you will have is on this side here, you'll have the on position from the switch. So when you're running, the voltage will come through here and not through this wire, which is only used when you're engaging the starter. So I won't have that. I can't show that because that's actually the wire I'm going to have on the car. That will be normally what would have gone into here, right? So anyway, I'll kind of discuss it a little more when I actually install it in the car. But that's the project we're working on right now. Hey, one more thing before we do the install in the car. Let me talk to you a little bit about the starters we have here and the wiring. As I alluded to, we'll have a wire that's coming off of the starter, off the solenoid on the starter, to the positive side of the coil. And reading from our MGB Electrical Systems book, which is a very good book, it has a good discussion on this. It says, on late cars from 1975 onward, the solenoid will have a terminal marked ignition. And if we look on this replacement coil here, you'll see it. It says ING. You notice the position it's in. It's in the same position this one's in, although this one isn't really, it does not have the ING on it. And it says that the purpose of it is to shunt a resistor out of the circuit during start in order to supply more energy to the coil. And that's basically what we're trying to do here. We're trying to supply more energy to the coil to give it a hotter spark. Let me show you. Here is an earlier starter and it only has the one terminal. It does not have the ignition terminal here that you need. If you have an earlier one, you're going to have to put in some type of relay. If you have an earlier starter, you're going to have to put in some type of relay. So anyway, I wanted to show you the differences and where you actually wire that in. And some of, like I said, some of the solenoids actually have ING, meaning the ignition, and that would be the wire that you want to connect directly to the coil here on the positive side. So that's the little extra thing I wanted to put in there. We'll see you later.
Bye.